Welcome back to My Kitchen Co-Pilot. This week we have my version of the cherry tomato and hibiscus tart. For my pat sucre, I split my almond flour in half and toasted half of it to give it a little bit more depth of flavor. And and then I cut the butter into the flour mixture with my hands until I got a fine sand-like texture. Added in an egg, pretended to use a spatula to mix it in. That didn't go very well, so I ended up just once again using my hand until the dough came together, formed a fairly stiff ball, which I, as always, wrapped in saran wrap and put into the fridge to set before rolling out. While the dough was setting, I moved on to my hibiscus and cherry tomato base flavor or base juice, essentially. So I heated the cherry tomatoes with some lemon juice and sugar, brought them to a boil, simmered them down, strained out the skins and insides, and was left with some juice. I split the juice into two parts, one of which was to make a gelee insert. So I add the reduced tomato with the remaining lemon juice, some sugar, and hibiscus tea. Heat that up, dissolve in some leaf gelatin, and then put it into half round molds to set. I froze these so that I set these first and then froze them so that they'd be easier to handle. And while those were setting, I moved on to my tomato mousse, took the other half of that tomato puree that I had made, heated it back up on a in a bain marie. Once it was nice and hot, dissolved in some more leaf gelatin. Then into my KitchenAid, I added some cold heavy cream, whipped it with confectioner's sugar, and then added in softened goat cheese. Add in a little salt, dash of almond and some vanilla extract, and whipped until it was nice and airy. And then I gently folded in the cooled tomato puree, transferred it into a piping bag, and then piped it into my mousse molds while it was still before it set. I added in the gelee inserts and moved these to the freezer so that they would harden. Now that the dough was ready, I could roll that out. I cut out large rounds to bake as the base of the tarts, and then move on to my mirror glaze while everything else is setting up. Starting with the hibiscus tea again, adding in some corn syrup. Once it's warm, adding in even more gelatin, so it's essentially a whole cow at this point, or a whole pig. Once it was fully dissolved, I add the sweetened condensed milk, and you can tell that the pH is a little different because we went from a red color to a purplish color. Put that over some nice white chocolate, let it sit for a little bit before whisking it in to get our mirror glaze, cooling it down to a pourable temperature, and we can coat it over our frozen tomato mousse. I know these are not the most tart-like tarts, but they've got a shell and they've got essentially a filling. So I think they still count. I was a little bit lazy. They were going to be more filled than this. I didn't have quite the right size of utensils to make them the way I wanted to, so this is just kind of what I ended up with. Flavor wise, again, not very good. This is the same problem that I had with the AI ones. The tomatoes themselves were a little too bitter, and I didn't realize that until a little late in the game. So would not recommend. They looked nice, but they did not taste great. The sablés were very good though. I would definitely make those again and just use them either as decorated cookies or as a base for a different tart.